Welcome back to Unleash Your Potential podcast. My name is John Mercado. I'm your host. I'm flying solo today. You'll hear from Robert Ovidio, my co-host, in a little bit. But man, I'm excited. It is a great day to have a great day. It's a great week to have a great week. Things are happening. The question is, are you making things happen, watching things happen, or wonder what the hell just happened, right? And we've got a very special guest today, a great friend of mine, Alexis Wager from Two Men and a Truck, and it's going to be phenomenal what we're going to cover today because her story is just so powerful. But hey, before we jump into anything, do us a favor, like and follow us wherever you're tuning in, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, or Spotify. We're at war with Apple Music or Apple Podcasts right now, so we're not there. We haven't been there. We're not going to be there. So check us out anywhere else at Unleash, Your Potential _podcast, and level up and get better and become the best version of yourself. Alexis, good morning.
Morning.
Man, I'm so glad we got to do this. I know we've been talking about it for a little while. Why don't you share with everybody, just how far you had to come to hang out with me today?
Today, about an hour and a half.
Yeah. Wow. Dedication.
Yeah, it's, I'm glad I left early enough this morning, because if I would have followed the time that it was telling me yesterday, I would have been very late.
Yeah, you probably would have been showing up right about now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, it's quite the change, obviously from where you're from, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So where are you from originally?
So I am from Southeast Minnesota.
Okay.
So in Southeast Minnesota, if something's 10 miles away, it means it's 10 minutes away as well.
Yeah. Versus an hour.
Yeah, I'm very quickly learning you take the number of miles and multiply it by like 3 minimum to get the time, how long it's going to take to get there.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, but how long have you been in Houston now for?
So just a little over a year. We moved here June of last year.
Okay. And why don't you share with everybody, what do you do work-wise?
Yeah, so I am the general manager over at Two Men and a Truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are a moving company in the area, and we're just wanting to make moving a little bit easier for everyone.
Yeah. So how did you get in the moving business?
A little bit of luck, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was working as a CNA a little over 10 years ago, and I was working in like group homes and nursing homes, and I guess mainly with children with developmental and behavioral disabilities, and then adults the same. And then one of my friends, her fiance at the time, was opening a Two Men and a Truck in Rochester. I was like, Alexis, you gotta come work with me. And I'm like, I'm in a healthcare sphere right now.
Yeah.
My sales experience was about a month and a half at TJ Maxx when I was 16 years old. Like at that point, people are already coming to the counter. They know what they want to buy. Like
it's different.
Yeah, there wasn't much sales going on there, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna stick where I'm at. And they brought in a CSR. She was with them for 2-3 weeks. Yeah. Didn't end up working out, and so he was back to, Alexis, you gotta come work with me. I'll teach you everything you need to know. And at that point, I was like, okay, so they're always gonna need a CNA or somebody in the healthcare field. I'll give this a try. Worst case scenario, I can always go backwards. And that was 10 and a half years ago. So.
Wow. So clearly, something has kept you around as long as it has. What was that?
It's a great company. It's very family oriented. It actually family started Two Men on a Truck. So it's very family based, and I really just, moving is very, very stressful. It's one of the most stressful things that you can do. And on average, people do it once every 7 years. So that's a lot of stress every 7 years if that ends up being, the time frame. Like if you moved every 7 years, it's a lot of stress.
It is. I've done that. So
one of the things I enjoy doing is just trying to relieve some of that stress.
Yeah. You want to help people.
Yeah, especially with so a lot of times when you go to move, there's good reasons. You don't want hey, we're expanding our family, or hey, we bought a bigger house. You don't want this happy occasion to be super, super stressful.
That's right. That's right.
I love when one of my favorite things is when somebody calls in there, you can just hear the stress. I don't know what we're gonna do. Just freaking out, and they might have closings that line up at the same time. They don't know what to do with all their stuff, but they can't be in either house. And they're just super stressed that whole entire call. But at the end, you can almost hear this it's taken care of. Like, it's just breath of relief, and that's one of my favorite things still to this day.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing because you go from a career of helping people in one area of their life, and now you're helping people in another, and you're alleviating stress in both instances. One was their stress about their health, and this is the stress about the moving process, and it's a big deal. So that's powerful, and you're also a mother, correct? Yeah. Remind me, how old are your kids?
So Brian is 8 and Anna is 4.
Wow. And so you got started at that company before you had your kids.
Yep.
Okay. And they obviously, you had them in Minnesota, and then they came here with you to Houston.
Yep.
Yeah. How are they adjusting?
They think it's hot.
No kidding.
So they usually go back up to Minnesota for the summer, and they come back down in August when it's really heated up down here.
Yeah.
So usually their first couple of comments are, "Why is it so hot down here?"
Yeah.
But they love it. I mean, we go to the beach and do a lot more like outdoor activities.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, it's so cold all the time that like there's things to do, but for a short period of time throughout the year. Down here, we're able to be outside all the time.
Yeah.
We do like the hot.
Yeah.
There's just some weekends we stay more inside.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. Listen, I've been down here 10 years, and I still we know when the right time to go out is and when it's not, just because you got to bring a change of clothes otherwise, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about your story, because I just think it's so powerful. I think that there's people out there that are on the fence of, do I go into business for myself? Do I shift careers? Do I take that leap? And I just think that somebody hears your story, and it's gonna really inspire them. So obviously, the guy, the owner of your company or the owner of your location was bugging you for a little while. Come work with me. Come work with me. Come work with me. And you did that. You took the leap, and things have been great. How did you end up in Houston though? So what took you from there to Houston?
Yeah, so I started at the Rochester franchise, and then a couple years back, they needed somebody to replace the general manager at our Mankato location. So I ended up going
This is still in Minnesota?
Yeah, that was still in Minnesota. So I ended up going out there for a little while, and then it was winter time.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Alexis, we're thinking about opening a new location somewhere south, somewhere a little bit warmer." And I'm like, "Well, where are you thinking?" And they said Houston, or the Houston area. And I was like, "Great, awesome, perfect." And it's winter, so it's super, super cold.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, why don't you take some time to think about this?" And I'm like, Okay, we'll think about it. The whole next week was -20, like the whole entire week.
Easy to think about.
Yeah, easy to think about. Because if you add in the wind chill, it was like -50 that whole week.
Yeah.
It like hurts to be outside.
It just hurts to think about being outside at that point.
You breathe and your lungs just feel like
like there's a glass.
It feels like shards of glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end of that week, I was like, well, I'm kind of done thinking about it. Like, let's just get me the heck out of here.
Side note, by the way, for those of you guys who plug in that live in Houston or in the South and don't live like in a cold place, you'll never know that feeling unless you go. Like I knew it because I lived in the Northeast. That's where I grew up. So I know that feeling of feeling like glass in your lungs. Yeah. You guys will never experience that unless you go visit a place like that, right?
Yeah, you can't be outside for more than 5 minutes without like everything just hurt. Your ears hurt, your nose hurts, your face hurts, like everything just hurts. So yeah, when they gave me that call and they wanted me to come down to open it, they did also give me some ownership with it as well.
That's awesome.
I've been with the company for so long.
Yeah. And where's your location at?
We are in the Aldine area of Houston.
Okay.
Yep. So our technical name is Two Men in a Truck Humble.
Yeah.
So we service mainly the northeast side, from like Humble, Kingwood, all the way down to Baytown, and like the northeast side of Houston.
Yeah. Okay. And so when you made the move, they gave you some ownership in it too.
Yep.
Yeah. That's nice, isn't it? I mean, how's it felt being a business owner versus just working for the company?
It's definitely different because like the decisions that you make are directly going to be impacting you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But it is cool that, you're able to kind of feel like when things are going really well, you're able to feel that a little bit more than just, oh yeah, the company's doing great. I don't know, it's more of like like, yes, I did this.
Yeah, you got some ownership,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, yeah, my company's doing great, but they're still paying me what they're paying me.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, the company's doing great and I'm doing great. Yeah,
Right.
that's cool, man.
Definitely have this feeling of like you're doing more.
Yeah. And, obviously, when, you had your kids, when you started with the company just a couple of years after, right? Was that, this might be personal, but was it planned that as you got a little bit more established, you're going to have kids, or just kind of it happened the way it happened, or?
The first one kind of happened the way it happened. The second one, we knew that we wanted to have one that was close enough in age.
Yeah.
That they could be friends, even though they're not necessarily friends right now.
Yeah. Why don't you share with everybody what you were telling me while we were waiting this morning about your kids?
My 8-year-old has found out the "I'm not touching you" thing.
Yeah.
He's not touching her. He's like an inch away from her, but he's an inch too close. So they'll be in the back seat, and he's, "I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you." And then I have Anna going, "Mommy, he's not touching me." Like, it's just. Who taught him that?
Yeah. Listen, I used to do that shit to my sister all the time, man. I remember. So I guess it's just a boy thing. Like I said, I used to do that shit to my sister all the time and piss her off. And that's great.
He's really, really good. They love each other so much.
Yeah.
He's really good at pissing his sister off.
Yeah. Yeah. And your husband works full time too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What does he do?
So he is a mechanic over at the Mercedes here in Katy.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you were sharing with me. It's at a location right up the road from here, so he has to make that drive every day.
Every day. So
Wow.
he sometimes it's an hour drive, and sometimes if there's any accidents or more traffic than usual, or it's raining, it's like a 2-hour drive home.
Yeah. So why don't you share with everybody, like, how do you guys make that work? Because you guys are both busy parents. You have ownership in your business, and you're running the company, and he's a mechanic. He's working an hour away from home, and you got 2 kids. I mean, how do you guys balance all that?
Yeah, so typically he'll drop them off in the morning. I'll be the one that picks them up, and Anna's in extra curricular activities after school. Like, she does dance and gymnastics.
Wow.
So we have some running in the afternoon that we do as well. So we kind of split things up a little bit that way.
Yeah.
There's always those calls where school calls and says, "Hey, kid is sick.
Gotta come get him."
Gotta come get him right away." Me being the closest, I can usually get to him within 15-20 minutes usually. But if we know that, hey, they're not able to go to school the next day, he usually steps in, and I'll stay home with them, or we just kind of see how every day-to-day thing kind of goes. There might be some days that I can get out of work or be out of work, and there might be some days that it makes more sense for him to do it. So we just do it the best we can.
Yeah. So I think really what you're saying is you guys communicate and you play team, right? And I think a lot of people today might struggle with that, right? They might say, well, my career is more important, or my career is more important, or maybe they don't have the freedom. You know Lily, Lily Powell, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was on the podcast a couple episodes ago, and she was saying, honestly, what drove her to get into business for herself was the fact that her old company wouldn't let her go be a mom and pick her her kid up from school, which is crazy, but just think about that for a second. You having ownership in this location, you can call a lot more shots than if you didn't, right? But usually just teamwork, where you guys communicate every day on who's got to do what. I think you said he drops them off in the morning typically, and that's kind of like with Aaron and I take care of Gianna in the morning, and kind of like the bookends. Normally I take care of her in the morning, get her day started. Her hair is now long enough where we have to do her hair in the morning, so that's been an interesting thing, learning how to do that, right? And then
lots of pigtails.
Yeah. So usually in the evening I'll put her to bed. And I get the bookends, but Aaron will take care of things in between that, right? And that's just kind of our teamwork. But there are some days where we have to switch that around. This week I've got to get home a little early and do stuff. But we have the freedom to do that. When you're running your own deal, you have the freedom to call some of your own shots.
Yep, and the guys at the office too, they're no strangers to my kids either.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old has a bestie that's, in his 30s.
Yeah.
Every time they see each other, it's a bunch of fist bumps and how's my bestie doing?
Yeah.
I mean, the kids are at the office too, so it's not like the guys are not used to that. I guess.
Well, so you're saying, you bring the kids along as they need to, and they get to see you build this business.
They have a lot of days off of school down here that you're
not used to
have, or like in Minnesota, you would have like half days, on Fridays or something. At least one Friday a month that Brian doesn't have school at all. So sometimes it's a mixture of bringing them with and keeping them entertained while I get things done too. Which is kind of cool because they're able to see what mommy does every day too. I pick them up from school, but I don't know, you kind of wonder what kids think you do all day. Like, where are they? Do they just drop us off and they're just at home hanging out? Like, no, they get to see, like, mommy has big trucks where she's at. Mommy has all of these guys that she works with. Mommy does this and that. They're able to see it.
It's so powerful. And Alexis, I'll tell you what, it's even more than that. They get to see you building something. Like I love my parents to death. And I know you love your grandparents to death. I saw them go to work for 20 years and still be working for, probably have to work for 20 more years after that, right? And never really get ahead, get taken advantage of by their bosses or the system or whatever it might be, right? So your kids are seeing mom build something, and they're seeing, your husband supports you while you build something, and that's a powerful message to send your kids. Like, my daughter's here all the time. She loves it. I mean, she since she was 2 months old, she's been here at the office, and she comes probably every other week or so, and she crawls around the place, and she, so you saw Linda on the way in, like, she'll jump to go hang out with Linda, and all the other people here in the office, and it's a powerful.
Be up at one of the desks.
Oh, dude, listen.
Around on the keyboard.
I'm telling you, when she's able to talk and walk and all that kind of stuff, the trick will be getting her to leave, but I love that. You don't use that as an excuse. Think about how many parents, and I'm not trying to call anyone out, but think about how many parents say, I can't go into business for myself, or I can't do this or that because of my kids, but you just found a way to make it work. So what, we're going to have to wrap up in a couple minutes, but what do you think's driving you right now? No pun intended with the move version, right? But what's driving you right now? What do you think?
Yeah, I just want to do better for the family, essentially. Like, I just want us to keep moving forward. Like, at 2 Minute Truck, our motto is, or slogan, or whatever you want to call it, is moving people forward. And, that doesn't just mean the business itself. Like, we want to move the people forward too. So I mean, that's kind of stuck, especially over the last 10 years. Like, I want to keep moving my family forward.
And what does that look like over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, we're still in the very beginning stages of. We've only been open for about a year, so we're still working out some kinks and still growing. But I just wanna keep building 2 Men in a Truck to the point where maybe we can open another location down the road, and just keep building that, and get the kids more options. I mean, the better that I do, the more options I have for them. Especially with like Brian, like, I'm thinking about putting him in like a private school right now. He's testing out of things in English.
That's so badass.
I want them to be able to have all of the opportunities. So if I keep moving myself forward and moving the family forward, moving the business forward, I'll be able to get them more opportunities down the road.
Why don't you share with everybody? I just think you having ownership in your business. I mean, if you were still working a 9 to 5, I mean, do you believe you can have all the opportunities you have with your kids right now, or would it be different?
Probably not. It'd likely be very different. A lot of times when you get those calls like, hey, you gotta go pick your kids up. You have to go to somebody else and be like, hey, I have to go pick up my kid. And there's places where after so many times of doing that, like your end of the year reviews and raises and all of that get affected. They go, oh, well, you had to leave early this many days in the last year to go be a mom or be a dad. Or on Saturdays, for instance, like, you might have childcare Monday through Friday, but it might be hard to find childcare on Saturdays.
That's right.
Sometimes the only option is to bring your well-behaved kids with, and
that might not always work out at the job.
Right. I mean, an office. A lot of times they'll say, well, an office setting isn't a place for kids. Well, I mean, if that's your only option, that's your only option. So, I don't think it would be the same if I was working a usual, like, 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. And so, Alexis, as we get ready to close things out, we have, parents out there that are on the fence whether or not they're going to go into business for themselves or start that side hustle or whatever they're going to do, and they just don't know if they can do it, or they're afraid, or they're worried about their kids. What's one message that you could say just to inspire them?
I mean, all you can do is really give it a shot. Otherwise, you're going to sit there and wonder, like, well, what if I would have done it after all?
Right.
And I mean, we moved 1,200 miles away, not really knowing where we were moving to, except for that it was Houston. So, there were a lot of these what if factors, but we're never going to wonder, like, well, what if we didn't do it?
Right. So you should just give it a shot, right? Because worst case scenario, you just figure something out. Yeah. I love that. So as we,
back home, it's sometimes easier said than done. But,
sure.
And we have no intention of moving back home at this point. But
but you say what if, right? I'd do this. At least right?
Yep.
That we don't have any pain of regret or anything like that.
Yep.
So as we close things out, if people want to get a hold of you, Alexis, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to our website. We are on Facebook and Instagram as well, or give us a call.
That's awesome. And so hey, Houston, you heard that. Realtors, you heard that. For all your moving needs, link up with Alexis, 2 men in the truck, and we're going to sign out, guys. So hey, if you've plugged in with us in the past, we appreciate you. We're grateful for you. And if you're not hanging out with us every week or every month, what's wrong? Come like and follow us. Listen to our podcast, Unleash Your Potential _podcast. Help you level up, become the best version of yourself. And Houston, we will catch you later.